Welcome to Middle-Earth Unveiled, the podcast where we explore the myths, magic, and meaning behind Tolkien's epic world. Today, we're diving into one of the most fascinating questions about Gandalf. What terrifying power did he have? And why did he never use it? Was it wisdom, restraint, or something far more complex? Stick around, because we're uncovering the hidden truths about the Grey Pilgrim and the power he dared to keep locked away. Let's journey into the heart of Middle-Earth together. This is Middle-Earth Unveiled.
We always picture Gandalf as this, really powerful wizard, right? Staff, fireworks, the whole shebang. But what if I told you there was this whole other power he had? Something so strong, so potentially dangerous, that he chose to keep it hidden.
What really gets me about Gandalf is his true power wasn't about, shattering mountains or anything like that. It was way deeper. We're talking about restraint.
Restraint, okay. So bear with me, folks. We're going deep into Tolkien lore here. I'm talking about Gandalf before Middle-Earth, back when he was known as, get this, Olorin. Think like angelic beings literally shaping the world. Those are the Maia, and Olorin, he was one of them.
And get this, these mayors, they weren't meant to be conquerors or anything, more like caretakers. They answer to the Valar, even more powerful beings. Think of them as like the original architects of everything.
Okay, so there's levels to this, right? You've got the big boss, then these architects, and then the Maia are like the landscapers, making sure everything goes to plan.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But even among all these crazy powerful Maia, Olorin, he was different.
Different how?
Even before he was Gandalf, he was famous for his wisdom and compassion. And he could understand elves and men like nobody's business. He knew what they were feeling, what they were hoping for, even their fears. It was uncanny.
So this empathy, this insight, it was like a superpower for him.
You could say that. And it didn't come out of nowhere. He had some pretty high-level mentors.
Higher level than a Maia who can read your mind. Who are we talking?
The Valar themselves. I mean, we're talking the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Like Manwë, the king of the Valar, he's the one who gave Olorin that sense of the big picture, the long game.
So that's where the strategic thinking comes from.
Exactly. But then you've got Irmo, the Dream Master. He works through inspiration, through visions and dreams, plants those seeds of hope and action. Olorin learned that incredible ability to inspire from him, that subtle touch, no force required.
Okay, that's really interesting, this idea of influence over raw power. But there's one more Valar who I feel like is key to Gandalf's whole deal.
You're thinking of Nienna, the Weeper, right?
Nienna. Sorrow, compassion, but also perseverance. Didn't she teach him about hope, too? The kind that comes after going through some stuff.
Yeah, she's the one who showed Olorin the depths of empathy, not just understanding someone's pain, but really sharing it with them. He wasn't just reading minds, he was feeling hearts.
Which is huge, right? Because Gandalf goes through a lot in Middle-Earth.
For sure. Yeah. Those lessons, that foundation of empathy, it was going to be tested a lot.
Okay, so we've got Olorin, right? Immensely powerful, could probably move mountains if he wanted to. But he's choosing to use it for good, for understanding, not conquering. And that is where we start to see this untold power of his, that restraint really taking root.
And honestly, that's what makes his story so powerful. He could have been this unstoppable force. But even back then, he knew real strength is something else entirely, something much harder to master.
So we've got this incredibly powerful being choosing to be like a shepherd instead of a conqueror. But then he gets the call, the mission to Middle-Earth. Talk about a change of pace.
Yeah, it was a bad situation. Yeah. Sauron, the OG Dark Lord, was gaining power, threatening to, destroy everything. The Valar knew they had to do something, but this time they had to change their approach.
Because last time they got involved, it was kind of a disaster, right?
Yeah. Continents sinking, continents crumbling. Not exactly subtle. They learned the hard way. Meddling with the fate of the world has consequences. Free will's a fragile thing.
Okay, no more cosmic landscaping. This time they needed to be more hands-off. So that's where the Asteri came in, right?
Exactly. 5 Maia were chosen, Olorin included, to go to Middle-Earth. But not as these radiant, all-powerful beings. They had to go in disguise. As old men.
Old men? Why old men?
Their power had to be hidden, their true nature veiled. It was a constant reminder, guy, don't rule.
Okay, so no flexing those Maia muscles.
Exactly. They couldn't just overpower Sauron. That was against the rules. Their job was to inspire the people of Middle-Earth to fight back, to choose their own fate.
Okay, so imagine you're Gandalf. You've got the power of, a demigod simmering beneath the surface. You could wipe out armies. But you're stuck trekking through the mud, trying to rally some grumpy dwarves, and convincing a homebody hobbit to go on a quest.
The temptation to just say screw it and take the easy way out, it must have been off the charts. Every time Sauron made a move, every time their allies faltered, Gandalf would have felt that pull, that urge to just unleash. But he knew he couldn't. It would break the whole point.
Because it would rob everyone of their free will, right? It's like you wouldn't teach a kid to ride a bike by holding them up the whole time. They need to learn, they need to fall so they can get stronger.
And that's the cool thing about how Gandalf works. He knew that real victory had to come from within, from the choices they made themselves. He could guide them, nudge them along, but ultimately it was their fight.
And that takes us to one of the most iconic moments, right? The one that really shows you just how much inner strength Gandalf had.
The ring.
Oh, yeah, the One Ring. Talk about the ultimate test. Seriously, we're talking about the moment Frodo offers Gandalf the ring. This little hobbit, practically shaking with the ring's power, offering this, like, ultimate weapon to someone who could use it on a whole other level.
And what's Gandalf do? He doesn't just say no. He freaks out. Like Frodo just offered him a handful of spiders. That tells you everything about what Gandalf knew. The danger of the ring was not just to everyone else, but to him.
Because part of him, even knowing what he knew, had to have felt the pull, right? Take the ring, use it to crush Sauron, make sure everyone's safe.
Tolkien himself said Gandalf with the ring would have been terrifying. Maybe not cruel, exactly, but definitely not messing around. Imagine it, Middle-Earth, but he's calling all the shots. Nobody gets a word in edgewise, all for their own good, of course.
Okay, now that's just scary. So Gandalf's restraint wasn't just, like, willpower. He knew himself, knew how easy it'd be to go too far.
Think about that struggle, though. Here's Sauron, pure evil, right? And Gandalf, deep down, he's got the power to end it like that. Just impose his will, instant win. But he knows that comes with a price.
It's like that saying, you fight monsters, you might become one yourself.
Exactly. And suddenly all those little moments of restraint, they mean even more.
Yeah.
Every time he could have just blasted his way through every battle, he chose the hard way. Patience, guidance. He believed people had to find that strength themselves.
He was walking such a fine line, right? Power like that, just itching to be used, but knowing if he slipped even a little.
It ruined everything. Makes you think, what even is power if that's what he was holding back?
Okay, so I'm hooked. If Gandalf's big secret wasn't fireworks and winning fights single-handedly, what was it? What made him so strong?
The power to not use power. That's what it really was. Every day, making that choice, holding back, guiding instead of bossing, trusting everyone else to figure things out, even when it was hard, even when they mess up.
So not force, not taking over, more like wisdom, patience, knowing you could control everything but choosing not to.
Exactly. Real change, lasting change. It has to come from within. Otherwise, what are you, a dictator? A bully? Gandalf was a teacher. He wanted to inspire, not order people around.
And that makes those victories, even the small ones, so much better. Because it wasn't just him. It was everyone in Middle-Earth stepping up, making their own calls, fighting their own fights, with him there as a guide, not a king.
Imagine if he'd given in. If Middle-Earth was just, whatever Gandalf wanted it to be. Might have looked peaceful on the surface, but something would be missing, the heart of it. That spark you get from facing down the dark and saying, nope, we decide. That's the Middle-Earth that won in the end. And Gandalf, he was there every step of the way, quietly, but always there.
It makes you think sometimes the best thing you can do is not do anything. Listen, give people space, believe in them.
It's not giving up, it's trusting. Trusting that something bigger than you is at work.
Okay, so big takeaway, right? Next time things get tough and you just want to take over, force things to go your way. Think of Gandalf.
Think about what he didn't do.
It's kind of a lot to think about, isn't it? Makes you wonder, what kind of power are we using in our own lives? It really makes you think about what it means to be a leader, you know? Like, we usually think of someone super charismatic, making tough calls, taking charge. But what if real leadership is more like Gandalf's style?
Oh, interesting, right. Instead of going my way or the highway, what if it's about helping other people find their way?
Right. Less about I have all the answers and more about, like, the right questions, giving people space to figure things out.
It's definitely different. The world seems to love those loud, take-charge types.
It does. But look at Gandalf. He didn't shout, but his influence, it really stuck with people, didn't it? More than any show of force could.
It's like he knew. Forcing people to listen, that's not real change. Inspiring them to think for themselves, now that's leadership.
It's almost like building something on fear versus building something on hope. One's quicker, maybe, but the other one, that lasts.
Exactly. Think about the people who have really shaped your life, the mentors, teachers, whoever. Were they the ones always dictating things? Or were they more about listening, encouraging you to be your best self?
It's funny you should mention that. I had this advisor in college, this tiny lady you'd never notice her in a crowd. But she just got it. She could cut through all the BS and help you find your way.
And she didn't tell you what to do. No.
Never. But she'd ask these questions, and somehow by the end of it, I always knew what I needed to do.
It's amazing, isn't it, how those little nudges can make such a difference.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that same idea, restraint. Not being weak, but choosing to be the bigger person. Trusting, empowering, believing in something beyond yourself.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope people take away from all this?
Next time you're facing something tough, no matter how big or small, remember Gandalf. Remember that real strength doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. Sometimes it's a guiding hand. And sometimes the best thing you can do is step back and let things unfold.
Choose to be the gardener, not the bulldozer, right?
That's a good one. Thanks for diving deep with us, everyone. Until next time on The Deep Dive.